Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. You're watching IMM Media, Radio and Television. This is your humble host, Fritz Misodi. I am here to talk about the youths of Africa, how they have taken over from the colonial legacies. And today I'll be talking about Cameroon, I'll be talking about Senegal, and talking about Africa as a whole, to see how the past few years have transformed these legacies. And we're gonna be talking about this so that we understand how this transformation has taken place and our own role in this transformation. Okay. Yeah. The Senegalese election is one of those pivotal role that the youth's reclamation of Africa, their colonial legacies, has taken place, where you have a 44-year-old guy who just take over from the colonial administration, okay, of Macky Sall. Okay, it is good to remind us that Macky Sall had two terms already, but he was struggling to run for re-election, to change the constitution, to change the administration, to go in for a third term with the support of France. But as things turn out, the Senegalese people said no. Enough is enough. You've had your two terms, and that's enough. And that's why you see the Sonko phenomenon came in. Sonko was in prison, and that is how it transformed to this. But why are we saying this today? Because I want you to understand that the youth's reclamation of Africa from colonial legacy is trending, okay? And we are seeing the trend, okay? Most of this effort have been done by young Africans who want to move beyond this colonial mindset, okay, and build a new and empowered Africa. And that has been going from Mali, Niger, and all these other countries that say no, okay, especially French, former French colonies that want to take up the baton of power. So the young Africans are seeking to reclaim their history. It is not. This is no new, no news. Nothing new, right? Where we have seen this phenomenon trending all the time. They want to reclaim their history, their culture, their ideology from the colonial narrative that have long dominated the African culture, especially, you know, trying to assimilate the African people to speak English or French, to speak their own language, whereas Africa is so blessed with so many different cultural languages and different ideologies. Okay, so these youths are coming now. They want an education system or a political system that contextualizes Africa's colonial past, but does not define the continent solely through that lens of colonial past. That is a push that we see today, where many of these young African leaders are coming up and try to change that narrative of the past. Okay, hopefully it will be positive. We are seeing positive trend from one end of the spectrum to another, one end of the, you know, we are seeing that happening in most of the African countries. So the push is to eliminate that system. These young ones that are coming up, they want to eliminate the system shock that caused by the education and political system that reproduces this colonial knowledge and ideas. Okay, they are trying to bring in the new system, and this system is, what they want is that they want to be equipped with the problem solving skills relevant to the local context, rather than still using the old system to solve the problem that Africa has today. And that's why you see the grassroots organization from different youths across Africa is trending, right? So they are trying to see how they can empower the African youth to understand their past and relate to their present, while fostering the sense of pride and ownership over the continent's challenges, where we have the political, economic, and social challenges facing Africa today. So the puppetry, this puppetry thing that they say, oh, you are this puppet leader, they say that instead are there to favor the colonial, arrangements rather than the local population, has been as a medium for African youth to express social and political commentary, where we see most of these Pan-Africanist leaders coming up, okay, and they're trying to say that they want to represent Africa in all aspects, to make sure that they use their platform to try to help conscientize Africa in all walks of life. That is working, especially when the youth-led movement to reclaim Africa from colonial legacy is been showing some waves, where this, you see, before we had coups, right? Coups happen in Africa. It was more coups organized by France, backed by France. But today, the coup that happened was not in favor of the French system. Most of this Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Gabon, these are French colonial countries. These are French colonial countries who are still using the CFA franc, but they are trying to revolt against the French colonial mindset. Okay, they have used all the concerted effort to move beyond this colonial mindset and to build a new and empowered Africa that is rooted in their local history, the culture, the problem-solving mindset, not that puppetry mindset that some leaders are carrying on. Okay, so this voice of African youth against colonial puppet is prevailing in the sense that most of the Africans youths want to take over the colonial past. Okay, from the coup in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, all these countries were more of the African revolution against Western neocolonization. It wasn't a coup in favor of France. So most of the time you saw France even threaten to attack Mali, even threatening to attack Burkina Faso, even threatening to attack Niger, to impose their leaders on these countries. But you saw what happened. They formed what they call the Sahel. These three countries have formed their own bloc. If you attack one of them, it means you have attacked all three of them. So that is what is going on now, and we're seeing the trend, okay, where the coup have been led by all these military elites, okay, representing the true aspiration of the African people. So while the they may use this anti-imperialist rhetoric. There are certain people who say, oh, this is not a good ideology because it's a military regime, it's a this and that. But that is a way to take over this neo-colonial ideologies. There is no other way, because except the example in Senegal can be maybe another example, either the military takeover or a democratic transition. Okay, but if even in Senegal, it wasn't easy, right? The people had to rise up and say, no, Macky Sall, you have to step down. So it's all about what some people think about, or how it can go in some countries. It doesn't really have to, some countries might say, oh, it's different, right? But it's the same revolution of the youths, where these elites take over and the young ones and try to take over from. Okay, so I'm gonna play this video so that you see some excerpt about what I'm trying to talk about, and we are gonna come back and talk about this. Okay.
Et de réserver une mention particulière à un homme. Je pense que j'ai pas besoin de le citer pour bien remarquer ça. Muy le président Ousmane Sonko. Mention particulière boobu ma koy defal dañ ko ci ndokkeel ci gis-gisam, ci détachement, ci désintéressement, ci xalam bu ñor ak ci xalaatam yu rafet yoo xam ne moo tax ñu taxaw coalition Diomaye président, moo tax projet bi am candidat ba Sénégalais yi amoon yéene jëmal projet boobu ba xool.
Exercise their freedom of choice rather than being influenced by France's selection of a candidate using the tactics we are aware of. We begin by targeting individuals, adorning them with the Legion of Honor or a similar knightly rank, enlisting them in Masonic lodges, and informing them to prepare themselves after occupation. It is high time for France to lift its knee off our neck and put an end to this unjust oppression. Centuries of misery, human trafficking, colonization, and neocolonization have caused immeasurable suffering. It's time to put an end to this cycle of oppression. It's high time for France to leave us alone. It's time for France to take a cue from its European neighbors and learn a valuable lesson in independence. Germany is the leading economic power in Europe, significantly surpassing France, which is ranked as the third or fourth largest economic power globally. Germany does not exploit any country, any colony. I can mention Italy, I can mention Spain, who had colonies before, but who do not exploit anyone, who do not interfere, who do not impose leaders in their...
So you see why in other African countries they are fighting against this neo-colonial tendency. In Cameroon, the colonial administrators are still wearing their uniforms of colonial masters, trying to preach colonialism. Okay, I think that it's high time we understand that it's past colonial era. We are no more in a colonial where one country will come and dominate another country, trying to impose their the assimilation on other countries. We are now in a different era. Okay, now is an area of win-win relationship. You are not imposing your relationship on others people. Okay, and that is what we are talking about. Okay, and when this continue, it doesn't sound well, right? Yes. Take a look at this colonial administration telling the people to stay as under colonialism, and he is okay with that. This is a guy who is called a senior divisional officer of what area, I don't know, and telling the people to stop fighting for their right, telling the people to remain under bondage. That's him.
They mammy them, when they are picking them, they still carry gun, they do these things and this nonsense. Una talk to them. For una, the woman them, we una husband them, they do this thing them, una talk to them. Because even una picking them, they go suffer what they do. Now normal thing, nature must come after. If they die, they picking them, they go suffer the same thing. So, I beg, especially the women, that is mommy, woman them. Because you know if they, you suffer born picking. Then you see the picking, they do this thing. You know tell you say no. The mommy them, when they are picking them.
That's a colonial administrator. A colonial administrator who represents the colonial master is telling the people, is begging, okay? You know, this is really crazy. A colonial administrator who come from a neighboring country, French Cameroon, okay, will be begging, okay, Ambazonia is begging the people of Ambazonia to be happy as colonized people and report Ambazonians who fight colonialism to them. I don't understand. Okay, the uniform is wearing, that's the uniform the colonial master used to wear long ago. Okay, this same colonial administrator from this neighboring French Cameroon is begging the local population of Ambazonia to accept their colonial authority, to say, okay, we'll stop fighting, we'll respect your colonial masters, we'll remain a slave, okay, let's just stay like that, okay, and remain under this colonial system. Okay, he is talking there like that. He is surrounded by these colonial troops from neighboring French Cameroon. Okay, the colonial administration is begging the Amazonian mothers, especially those whose children are freedom fighters, to betray and report their children to colonial authorities. How do you square that up? Telling the mothers whose children are fighting for the future of their own children's children to stop fighting for their children's right, and say, okay, we are going to stop fighting for freedom, we're going to stop fighting for self-determination. Okay, how do you square that up? You want these parents to go and report their children to the colonial administrator, who will then turn and kill them, and this colonial administrator is begging the mothers to collaborate with them, to give them information so that they wow, these people are really crazy. Okay, I don't understand if they really understand what is going on. Okay, because this is really asking someone to, slavery is good for you, you can stay as a slave, no problem. Okay, just stay like that, don't fight for your right. Don't fight for your right, just be a slave and respect the colonial masters. Okay, that is what they are talking about. That is the message. Because if someone like this is going to, to be like an agent, say the people should stop fighting for their right, I don't know how does that square up, right? Telling the people to stop fighting. It is just funny, right? To see people who they don't understand that this is a new era. Their era has passed. Okay, that ideology of trying to use something to cajole the local population. They know they are right. Okay, these people are not dumb. They know what they are fighting for. Okay, they know what they are fighting for, and okay, the system. Some countries are getting to understand they are being used by this system, the colonial system. The development of countries in Africa must come with a win-win relationship. Okay, if you see the relationship most of these African countries have today with China or with, say, Russia, it's on a win-win relationship. Nobody is coming to Africa to take everything and ask people to be paying colonial taxes, colonial debt. Okay, when you are still using them, because you determine their currencies, you determine where they put their money, you determine where they sell their goods, you determine. So all these things are part of colonial pact, and everything is taken. The same companies that are having the projects are French companies in all these countries. They make the decision. They're the ones selling weapons to these countries. They're the one determining. So if you are in somebody's life like that, how do you say that person is independent? The person is not independent, because you are in their life when it comes to military, you are in their life when it comes to economy, you are in their life when it comes to their resources, you are in their life when it comes to choosing their own leaders. So how independent are these countries then? That is a question we are talking about. Okay, but when you see a country like Cameroon with people who are suffering, majority of the population don't have even the basic jobs. People are crying of hunger every day. But you see, the leaders have been there for how many years? 41 years. And it's okay. It's okay to stay in power for 41 years. But in Europe, you don't see them staying in power for that long, right? They respect their term of office. But when it comes to Africa, no, it's okay for Africans to stay in power for 41 years. We'll support you. We'll give you all the, But that is the problem in Africa. Why do we talk of democracy, but we are getting mad? Okay, this is a controversy. When you get mad at military leaders of taking over, okay, militaries take over from dictators. You get mad, but you don't ask those dictators to step down, not to run for office after 2 terms of office. You don't tell these dictators not to change constitutions. You don't tell these dictators to stop imprisoning, having, targeting political dissent and all these atrocities committing on innocent civilians just for this regime survival. That is the situation. It is a two-way trick. You either remove these dictators in power who are trying to stay in power for more than enough time, or the military will take over and change everything. So I saw ECOWAS was blaming, instead of blaming those people those African leaders who have been there for whoever knows when. You don't try to stop these guys. Okay. What is the essence of you blaming the youths of taking over when they are doing that because of the dictatorship system that is in place? It is just mind blowing to see that some of these people who say democracy means power to the people. But when power goes to the people, they are angry. You can be mad when power goes to the people. The people power is people power. Okay. When you allow these people to stay in power for that long, what kind of democracy are we talking about? Is that democracy? What democracy are we practicing when you, as people who are trying to bring in change and development, you allow people to stay there for that long? What is wrong with us African people, that we cannot take our destinies in our own hands? That is the issue. We have to stand doing that. All the puppets, all these guys who go around making this their noise, and okay,
They still carry gun, they do these things and this nonsense.
yes,
Una talk to them. For una, the woman.
what was that? You see? I'm trying to show you these guys who going around, and look at them. Look at these guys. These are the guys who are staying in power. Look at them. They have been there forever. Look, you see, just check. Look at them. These are the guys who are staying in power for many, many decades. The lowest in this year that is maybe 40 years. Because Paul Biya is now 40 years in power, 41. So these are the people. Instead of the Western powers to make sure that these guys don't stay in power for that long, they are blaming the military who take over to replace these guys. Who is the hypocrite? Who is the hypocrite here? These guys stay in power more than 2 terms. They just change the constitution. They do everything they want with the country, right? And when military take over, the Western powers blame the military instead of blaming these people who are overstaying their time in power. I mean, let's understand it. It's a simple thing, right? Simple thing to understand. How do you blame someone who is not practicing democracy? Then you're blaming the youths for taking over to implant democracy. You see? So that is a problem in Africa. Okay? You are supporting these rogue regimes in Africa. These guys who are staying in power forever. But when the youth say, okay, enough is enough, you say, no, we don't want that. It's not democratic. What is not democratic? The people staying in power, is it democratic? That is a problem. That is a problem in Africa. And we'll see this trend going. But a country like Cameroon, for example, the people are crying of hunger. The prices of even basic commodity is rising. But the trend is, when you see the trend is going more and more to the side of the youths. The youths are taking over. Okay, what is happening with Cameroon? Look at something like this. This is Cameroon. This is Cameroon. Look at the roads. Look at this is a country that has been ruled by a dictator, one of the dictators, for many, many years. There is no road, there is no development, there is nothing going on in that country that you can even say, oh, this is something. This is Cameroon, the capital. That is Yaoundé for you. The capital of Cameroon. That is it. The people had, no, even the basic amenities they don't have. The government officials would prefer to go abroad to treat themselves because their hospitals, they know that they don't have the basic medical equipments in their hospitals. They will prefer to go abroad to treat themselves. Education, the same thing. The government officials will send their children abroad to study. That is just a sneak peek of what is happening, right? Let me bring this guy, let him come and say something.
Yes, at the very first side before we came here, Senegal was one of those countries that I believe the French people educated them different from the rest of Africa. And we should have to know that was what we call the French Equatorial Africa. The base was in Dakar. And a lot of those things are still there by even institutions. And which means that the consciousness in Senegal should not be looked like an error, but that's something which was instilled within the people. We have a lot of those indigenous Senegalese that have made news around the world. We can talk of Pape Anta Diop. We cannot doubt their legacy. And which means that the Senegalese people equally learned a lot of that. After the tussle, after serious social media politicking, you realize the president coming back to say, this is the next president. Here, when we come to Cameroon, you find opposition parties not capable of talking to themselves, because somebody will tell you, I am the major opposition party.
I have the number.
I have the number. I have the parliamentarians.
I belong into
I have the councils. I control councillors. So I cannot have 2 councillors and I'm coming to you who has none. We want to get Cameroonians to understand that in politics, at times it's not what you have at hand, it's what we are aiming to have. Who controls the opinion before a particular election has the right to talk. But that doesn't mean that even when you have the popularity, you don't need the force of the others. There are a lot of people that came out celebrating with the new president. Some never even voted him. Some are just happy that so at last change can come to Senegal. These are the things we wish to see. Which means that the opposition which we are talking here, some people said, since some of us don't even belong to any political party, we are not even supposed to talk. But then those who defended daily on the streets of Dakar, most of them were civil society members. Some were church members. Some equally had no political background, but their voices were heard. The force they exerted on the government counted a lot. And at the end of the day, the president trying to twist in, even again at one point, calling election in less than a month after accepting to change his former decision, was again like what we call a constitutional coup. To him, since the opposition party is not well seated all around the country, he has the ruling party, and so they will find their way out. It failed. It failed. And the moment we fail, we must recognize our failure. We might not be going to some places. Macky Sall realized that he has failed. His running mate for the ruling party realized he has failed. We were happy that the very first call came from them. And if you go now on his page, his Twitter, you realize it has been written them in both English and French, which means that we have, at one point, when politics is concerned, politics is not a game for hatred. Politics is selling your opinion to the public, and whoever wins for the sake of that nation, all of us become one. That is why we have seen in Europe several times opposition coming to join with the ruling party to denounce acts against the nation. What if I have won? Will I continue to be an enemy? President Nelson Mandela taught us a lesson 27 years after going to prison. What did he do? Came back, became president, and reconciled with his own very, people may say enemies. They were its contestants, those who confronted him politically, but they could not withstand the heat he was giving to them. These are some of the lessons that we learn, that we can fight politics, we can fight for the game, but the winner should be given the latitude to rule the nation freely. Today, Macky Sall, they have just given an idea that now that they have the congratulatory message given to Faye has the liberty to even arrest them tomorrow, but that is not his wish. They will not do it. They have committed a lot of constitutional fouls, but then Cameroonians can learn a lot. We need a country where the fact that you are C and I'm D or I'm W or you are S, we are all Cameroonians. For the sake of the nation, let's take the nation to the level where everybody, including you, who might not be in power tomorrow, you sit and admire that I did this for this nation. I reconcile my people. But then I said pride has killed a lot of people. If you put pride into politics, it will not work. When I look at a young man at 43 years, he represents an age group willing to learn, an intersection between the old and the young. A lot is going to happen in Senegal. He might have done it, he might have committed some error. L'homme of man was not born perfect. We have been told that. So every village has its fault. But then, what do? We need to take on the nation. Forget about the conflicts we have. Forget about the individual interests. Because what is killing the politics in Cameroon is what I call stomach politics. These are the people even assassinating and commanding military to attack others. At times the head of state is not even aware. Those who are trying to protect the pot they are eating from are the greatest dangers we have. We need a country where there is political tolerance. Political tolerance.
Yeah, it's a message. It's a message to some of us who are still very naive with the political transition going on in Africa, where we see the civil society, the churches, the clergy, the traditional leaders, who are the peacemakers and the change makers. They don't carry out their responsibility. The youths are taking over. If they cannot do their due diligence to take that responsibility to bring change, the youth are coming with that change. Macky Sall in Senegal wanted to change the constitution. He wanted to, they told him, no, your 2 term is over. The youth went out to the street and protest. The youth said, we will not take this. Faye is a 44-year-old guy, you know, but he and Sonko, you remember Sonko was a major opposition leader. He was put in prison, and the Macky Sall administration said that Sonko did not have, was not qualified to be president, or he had whatever. They brought so many charges on him, but what happened? The power of the people is the people power is the highest power. Until the people of Cameroon will understand the people power, they will keep lamenting, they will keep crying poverty, corruption. They will stay under poverty and rejection, okay? Because they have to take their power into their own hands. They have to do what the people of Senegal did to Macky Sall and told him, no, enough is enough. You can't go in for a 3rd term. You can't change the constitution. The Constitutional Council in Senegal was the one that rejected Macky Sall's proposal to run in for a 3rd term. Okay, that is what we want. We don't want people who are elected like these colonial guys who come around and be making that their noise. Because they're in power, they don't see anything bad about that. They just want to stay in that power and support the colonial regime. Go ahead, keep fooling the people, stay in power as you like. All people who need to go on retirement, they need to go for rest. When will the youth take over? When do you want the youth to take over? When you are in a dying bed, or when you are gone, or when? Okay. That is a lesson for Cameroonians. It's a lesson for Amazonians. It's a lesson for Africa. Okay. Because when you see the CPDM regime who go out and share they shared sardine and bread to people, how does that help them? They go and fool people, give them bribe to go and march, give them bribe to go to do this. That 1,000 that you are giving these people, how is that helping them? Those who go out and collect this money also, you don't have sense to. You collect this 1,000, go and buy sardine and bread. How is that helping you people for employment? How is that building your roads? How is that building your railways? How is that building your infrastructures? How is that building your amenities? See how they are putting sardine bread. That's how they'll go on for these CPGN rallies. They'll give them sardine and bread. What is sardine and bread gonna do to your family? What is sardine and bread gonna help you to build your roads? Is sardine and bread, how is that helping you? How is that providing for basic salary? How is that helping you, your social life, your family, helping develop the country? That is the problem. This is just the issue with African systems. That's the issue with African system, because they'll take these people, go and put them somewhere to go and march. They'll give them sardine and bread. That's it. They'll go home. Nothing changes. Okay, that is the diabolic circle, or the vicious circle that people go through, and it's okay to leave these people there. These old haggard people who don't even know what to do. You keep them there to do what? What are they doing in power? For God's sake. The youths of these countries have to take their powers, their destinies in their own hands. I'm very happy with Senegal today, because Senegal has set the pace for all these dictators to be taken out. Okay, the youths don't allow these people to run for any re-election in all these countries. Don't, because they are taking your futures. They are taking your own destinies. Don't allow them, because they take example from Senegal. Any of these haggard people who want to take over, who want to go run for re-election, don't allow them. Go to the street and protest like the Senegalese did. Okay, that is the modus operandi of the youths that have that strength, or that courage to take over these old people in power today. Thank you for watching. God bless you. God bless Africa. And let's keep fighting for Africa.
Former colonies. On what grounds does France believe it can continue to impose leaders on us and make choices on our behalf? This must come to an end. And the emerging Africa, the African youth, the African elites, and the African diaspora all stand united in saying no, it cannot continue any longer. France's hypocrisy is evident and pervasive in daily life. Let's examine the cases of Mali and Chad as prime examples of this hypocrisy. In Chad, where the constitutional process has been interrupted, France applauded and its president visited to officially consecrate the new king's coronation ceremony. In Mali, where it is not the constitutional process that has been interrupted, but the transition process, France has condemned and even packed up its things to say that it is leaving Mali. That's hypocrisy. It's the double standard. It is the double language that France employs in its dealings with Africa. During our questioning of Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian regarding the situation in Ivory Coast and France's decision to allow a third term, he provided a clear explanation. He stated that while he accepted the third term for Ouattara, he refuses it for Belarus. He emphasized that France has condemned the situation in Belarus and has actively encouraged the European Union to do the same. Le Drian explains that in Belarus, millions protested, unlike Ivory Coast, where there were no mass demonstrations on the streets. This is how France deals with African issues. Personally, we expect absolutely nothing from France. We desire her to cease meddling in our matters so that the people of Senegal can exercise their freedom of choice rather than being influenced by France's selection of a candidate using the tactics we are aware of. We begin by targeting individuals, adorning them with the Legion of Honor or a similar knightly rank, enlisting them in Masonic lodges, and informing them to prepare themselves as they will be next in line. Even the hypothesis that Macky Sall may not succeed, we know who is being prepared by France. This must come to an end. It will not occur in this manner any longer. Let's be clear. We have absolutely nothing against the French people. In France, both political and citizen voices are rising to hold and express the same discourse as the